you go.
Dan's ready.
Dan's ready. Good deal. Let's call this meeting of the Village Park Board to order. First of all, roll call. Item 2. Can you call for roll call, please? Peggy?
Frisch,
Here.
Herneman,
Absent.
McDaniel,
Here.
Ruati,
Here.
Miller,
Present.
and Knutson.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Jameson, but
Excused, yes.
He was,
Cannot make it overall. So in the packet, the meeting minutes were distributed. Looking for any review of those, any corrections, and if none, look for approval of them.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
I second the motion.
Got a second? Any discussion, any further discussion? Thank you. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Second.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Go and
Any abstentions? Hearing none. Move on to that. So we do have, so is that as consensus, both meeting minutes were in there? Okay, so we're approving it as consensus overall. Fourth
over
item
both
was a
these.
public appearance. We have the opportunity that you may participate to the park board and present to the park board. It's part of our open laws that we don't discuss anything regarding to any agenda items that are not on this evening's agendas, but we give you up to 3 minutes. We did have one individual who's willing to speak, so anybody would like to present to the village board, come forward. If you can state your name and your address, appreciate that.
Hello, my name is Jim Wunsch, and I live at 467 Claddell Street. And I just had a couple things that obviously they're not on the agenda, and but I wanted to, and since you can't respond, I think I figured a way to discuss or say what I wanted to say. My assumption is that since it's June, the spring cleanup for the parks is already done. And I know that I was here, I think 3 months ago, and they were looking for volunteers for that. And I contacted the downstairs a couple times, and I never kind of got anything back. So I'm not complaining about it, but I don't know if I can get put on for next year already for High Meadows Park, because our neighborhood would be more than happy to do that. Because I don't want to miss the opportunity again. So that was one of the things. The other thing is I talked to a few people about at the same time about getting like an application to become a park board member. I know there's no openings now, but I'd kind of like to at least, like they say at Disney, be on the bench. This and get prepared for that. So on that slip, I put my email address. So I don't know if somebody can send that to me that way, or I mean I can come pick it up or whatever. So.
Are you familiar with the distribution list that lists all the park, all the
The
board meetings?
e-notify.
Yep,
Yeah.
e-notify. Thank you.
Okay, am I familiar with that? No.
That would be a great way of doing it. That's how we get informed with meeting minutes and packets.
Okay.
But when it comes around to the chance to, we're looking for members and getting that out, that's a great way of communicating. But it's also a good awareness of what is taking place in these whatever committees you may be interested in. So certainly welcome that. We're always looking for people.
Okay.
Certainly looking for voices in the community.
Right. Okay,
And
sounds
I
good.
I do know just from the meetings, there are openings on other committees out right now. So just contact Martin and he'll be able to kind of point you in that right direction.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Thanks
So
for your
Jim,
time.
likewise, the cleanup has been going on for several years, and some of this is even outside of the village,
Yeah.
some of the groups that organize that. And
If
so
you
we do
want
that
to
at springtime.
organize a group and a day and a plan, just let us know.
Yeah, okay.
Part of that was to actually have a registration to identify which park in particular, so that at least keep them aware of it. Also helps the staff to recognize if somebody has cleaned up, to pick up the bags and realize that other things that are out there. But really appreciate that, because that becomes, winter time brings all that stuff and gathers around. And so
Right.
it's great to get the community involved in it, and really does help out, so appreciate that interest.
Okay,
Welcome.
And we have new
Sir.
volunteer forms too that we have to have everyone fill out. So,
Okay.
So, yep.
All right, sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
thanks
being
for
here,
what you
Jim.
do too.
Hey, Jim.
Thanks.
So-
Does anybody else would like to present to the park board in the open session?
If you just go to this e-notify,
Okay, hearing none.
you can
We'll move into the fifth item, reports from the village staff. Director of Public Works.
Yeah, so we have Michelle Mansky and her wonderful children here tonight. And she had made a request. They live over in near the Scott Street Tot Lot, which is off of Scott Street there, obviously, park area. And she was requesting just the ability to be able to construct a larger sandbox that's out there. And you have my memo in there. What I believe they asked was for also the supplies, I think, correct?
super open to whatever.
Okay. And I reassured her that, she said, I've got 2 kids tonight, and I said, that's perfectly fine. We're a very relaxed environment, so, anyhow. And so she had sent, you saw what's in the email there, I think, let's see, a picture, there was a supply list of about $700, and then, I couldn't get the other photo to come out, but, kind of a retractable cover, because sometimes these sandboxes, well, they become cat litter boxes, for that type of stuff. We tend to, I mean, this is always difficult, because we love ideas. We love people and their passion for the parks. What the challenge is always, if something is constructed by a resident or a resident group, they tend to fall in disrepair a few years and then kind of become the responsibility of the village to continue to maintain indefinitely. And so generally our recommendation is to not do this, because there are facilities there. We do have the Scott Street Tot Lot slated for upgrades and improvements in the CIP. It's a few years out, I can't remember, maybe 3 or 4 years out.
29.
Huh?
I think it's like 29.
29, that some new equipment and maybe raise some of that area a little bit. Another alternative that I went out and walked it the other day, and you're fine. I went out and walked it the other day. There is a sandbox that's about a 12 by 12 wood sandbox area out there, and the sand's tired. It's and a lot of weeds and stuff, and it's got one of those little digging devices right in the center. One thought I had is, you know, as a middle, and then the other, the better sand is in kind of the middle of a old tire, I believe. Is that, yeah. And so one thought I had is, and we don't have time right now and staff right now, but you know, we could have plan to excavate out the bad sand, take out the little digger, because I just don't think kids play on those as much as people think they do, and then replace that with nicer sand, and maybe a less permanent type of cover, maybe if it was just a tarp that was anchored down with some rocks or something like that. Something that's gonna maintain kind of what's there, not add any more necessarily additional work for us, and can be done for a, you know, I think a cheaper cost than building just a new one. So that would be my thought. You know,
We're open to whatever, we just.
you can come up, no, you can come on it, just,
You can find them.
Thanks for letting us come too.
yeah.
We're honestly open to whatever. We're just, there's a group of neighbors of us who all have kids like around this age, and they're all trying to squeeze into that little tire, and we're like, well, it'd be nice if we could. And we didn't know if we could go rogue and just do it, but.
That's not usually the best way.
Yeah. So I asked. So we're just open to compromise and whatever, just something where more than 3 littles can sit in there at the same time.
I think one of the examples I look at is Gassner.
Where you want it? Da, 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 da.
Stan's eardrum just burst.
Dee, dee, dee.
Beautiful, thank you. All right.
And so Gassner ends up having that, I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, they also have that digging thing, and they also have a box around all of the sand. It's a lot larger sand area. and I've seen that grow over and grass
It's-
grows into it and other things.
It's all pea gravel now.
Is it now?
So we
'Cause I know
we
you
actually
renovated
took
that.
this, a few years ago, it was having the same kind of problems, and we took the sand out of there. We have added pea gravel in places. I acknowledge pea gravel's not quite as fun, but it is cleaner.
Yay!
But also, there's the park right over in Bergamot, right over here, that has all the trucks. I think if we, because we were talking about if we got a sandbox, we'd get trucks from Goodwill, put the trucks
Yeah.
in there. Because then the sand gets played with more, and then
Yeah.
there aren't as
Yeah.
as many weeds. Because Gasser, I don't think it's
Yay!
Wait, because it's a super hot. It's like a hot park. There's
Right.
no shade.
Right.
It's kind of degrading. So
Right.
just to say, like, I think we could have a better success with that. Okay, we're all done. Thanks.
So in terms of things that kind of concerned me about it was just, I see the cover over it, or that metal device, had little concerns about safety, other aspects of that. I just look at kind of a box type of arrangement that potentially can keep it looking nice.
Yeah.
It's some avenue that.
Yeah,
can be done
it's-
in that fashion.
The existing box out there is a pressure treated lumber, and I think I measured, it's 11.5 by 11.5 inside. And then, I don't know how deep, but I mean, we have done that. I think taking that little scooper out would actually add some room to that. And then, just to put new sand in, I don't think it would take staff a very long time to do it. Right now, we're kind of slammed, but if we put it on just kind of the list of things to do, sometimes it's like we have half a day or a Friday where we can just kind of go in and do that. That would be my recommendation, and would be literally just a load of sand would be the cost, and so that's fairly minimal.
Why pea gravel over sand usually, or?
Pea gravel doesn't allow the weeds to grow, and cats don't tend to poop in the sand or poop in the pea gravel. It's cleaner, and we've noticed it to be less maintenance in the long term.
Other comments? Lynn?
So I have a very soft spot in my heart for the Scott Street tot lot, as you can all know from my discussions when we did the park and rec plan.
Mhm.
I feel like this is a pocket park that is surrounded by families, and it has been neglected for many years. And that's not anyone's fault, but I really do think that we have a group of parents in this neighborhood that are active and willing to help and in need of something here. And so I don't really care what happens. It sounds like neither are the families, but if we could get something for this summer, I think that's what you're looking for, right? Is sort of to make this area usable in a way that is safe, but also immediate, sort of. So I guess my question for you, Jeff, is like, I know you said you're swamped, and I get that. Is there, I mean, they're willing to help. How can we find something that
Mhm.
allows us to be functional as
So-
quickly as possible?
Yeah, I mean, we could do, if they wanted to help remove the sand that's in there, I mean, the problem is, honestly, we can probably do it fairly quickly with our little mini excavator, which is the same thing we used to dig the graves. That's why I don't wanna create work. I think, I could talk to Nick and see, it's just, we're being very careful on what we're committing to. However, something like this probably would not take a very long time
Right.
period. So, what I would like to do is if it's something where you're in agreement, if everyone's kind of in agreement with that plan going forward, we'll put it on there, and, I mean, we will get it this summer. I just can't say, we definitely can't do it in the next 2 to 3 weeks, that type of thing, but.
I would say, and I mean, I'll volunteer myself. If Nick has a day that he's planning to be out there and he needs some extra hands to spread some sand,
Yeah,
we'll be out there. If he wants to
Yeah,
just let
it's-
us know, I think that, I mean, it might be a really nice community opportunity as well. So
yeah, yeah,
maybe something to
okay.
announce.
Yeah, I think we can do it, honestly, I think we can do it fairly quickly and efficiently. In fact, we just purchased a bucket that's used for concrete, but I think we might be able to use it for sand as well. So I think we can get in there, dig it out fairly easily. I know we did the Gasner one really quickly. He's fine. He's good. But I think that way we're not creating, and pulling out the existing unit is just something we need with the piece of equipment we have there. So it's, I mean,
Essentially-
I'm all in favor of neighborhood helping. I just don't know if there's, I mean, in the interim, if they wanted to clean out the existing sand and just use that in the interim, that's fine too. I just don't know how grody it is.
I mean, we're playing it daily.
And not the inner tube,
Oh,
but the
not the
square, no, the inner tube actually looks pretty good.
The square has pea gravel in it.
Is it that or
Yeah.
sand? It's pea gravel?
It's pea gravel, yeah. There's just a lot of dandelions in there right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We don't put it in that.
We would dig that out.
Oh, okay.
We would dig that out and take the, yeah, he's still here, okay. We would dig that out and take the digger out of the center, and so then it would be a big, 11 or 12 foot wide square with sand.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
People
there's-
go to the soccer games, their
Yeah.
kids play there too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So essentially, have you work with them and the
yeah,
community?
I'll let
be
you
able to,
know, I'll let you know, I'll
address
talk
that?
to
That'd
Nick
be
and
great.
then, but if that's an acceptable solution, I think that's kind of a fair, that way we're not really constructing anything new there, but we're refreshing that. And then, yeah, we do have in our CIP, I wanna say it's
27, I'm sorry.
27, is that 27? It's like 200,000? We have some design in 1 year, and then I think we have
It is 50.
50 for the design, but what's the next year?
Then after that, it was, I didn't have anything after that. Scott's had improvements for 50,000,
It
27.
was more than that, okay. All right, so maybe that's, but 50,000 can actually do quite a bit there, with some new equipment and everything like that, so.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing this forward. I think
Yeah.
there's a need for us to keep looking at these parks and what we can improve on it, but
Yeah,
also respect that we have had others that do volunteer work and it ends a burden to the village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we don't necessarily want to get into that. We always have to be conscious about being safe too, so.
Yeah.
So, appreciate that very much.
Thank you for doing that.
so is that a direction, or, I mean, is that, do you wanna say just work, how about a motion of something like direct Public Works to work with the neighborhood group to replace the sand and remove the digger thing?
Do we need to get real specific, work with you in regards to making some improvements that are?
Yeah,
cost
yeah, you could do that.
effective?
Yeah, that way we
make
just
a
have
motion.
direction from you guys and approval from the board.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Judy.
Me,
Do we have a second?
me.
Lyndon.
Second, do we have any discussion? Any other thoughts, questions? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you very
Awesome.
much for being
He
here.
has something he wants to say. What do you wanna say? Oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Say it in the microphone.
Thank you.
that's awesome.
V.
Okay, we're good.
I abstain.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, okay.
You're good.
Have a good
All right,
night,
you too. Have a good
You
night.
made our night.
Right?
So moving on to 5B, Director of Community Development reports, updates on the 24 Downtown Master Plan and the stakeholder engagement.
Yes, so unfortunately Elise is under the weather, so I'm going to be filling in for her tonight. But the downtown master plan is off and running. So we started the public engagement component this past Saturday at the art fair. The company we're working with, Redevelopment Resources, they, along with Elise, had a table at the art fair, and they received quite a bit of feedback. They haven't let us know, if it's trending towards any sort of themes, but they just let us know they got a few good responses, a lot of surveys filled out. And they plan on doing that throughout the summer. So they'll be at the community band concerts, Sounds of Summer, National Night Out. So be sure to look for them and let them know if you have any strong thoughts on the downtown master plan, as well as be sure to sign up through e-Notify or keep your eyes out on social media, because there will be a community survey distributed. Or when they're out and about, you'll see a QR code as well. It will be the same for most everybody, aside from those who live within a certain radius of the downtown. They'll have a separate survey. And then
Are they asking specific questions, or are they getting to
It's
create a little bit of dialogue?
So I think it's, yeah, just creating dialogue, and then I believe at the art fair they had, you know, a blown up map of downtown, and you had the opportunity to put stickers on. This is working. This is not. Right here, we think there should be an X, Y, and Z. So it's very interactive, and they kind of give you some jumping off points, but then we, you know, want everybody else to kind of fill us in on their feelings. We don't want to guide anybody towards, you know, any sort of agenda. We want to know genuinely what people are thinking. And one of the reasons we picked this firm is because, well, for a lot of reasons, but their public engagement component really appealed to us. So we're really excited about this.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the park board?
I wouldn't mind helping out in the booth
Oh,
sometimes.
perfect, because I do think there were some, that they wouldn't be able to staff, so I'll let Elise know and we'll let you
Sure.
know for sure.
Cause I sat with, Lynn on Saturday for a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
And we-
okay.
We had fun just talking to the people and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, 83-year-old guy had to tell Lynn his whole story, so. But I mean, it was interesting to see what people had to say. So I would
Absolutely.
enjoy that, yes.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Awesome. Wonderful. So 5C, Recreation and Programming Coordination Report on recap of the ribbon cutting, the Kids Get Fit, and the outdoor movie night.
Sure. So, yeah, we've had a couple events since the last time we met. The ribbon cutting and Kids Get Fit were a lot of fun. The ribbon cutting, I refer to it as like a Mount Rushmore of Oregon. It was very cool to see the past village presidents and sort of everybody who had a hand.
Board members.
Board members, yeah. Even, I mean, a lot of those who were in sports orgs, like when this project first started. Yeah, it was great to see. Everybody was just in the mood to celebrate, and we had a good amount of kids go through Kids Get Fit. There was a lot of fun stuff going on, a lot of interactive components. Hopefully we'll get more kiddos next year, but for the first year, it wasn't too shabby. Outdoor movie night, we had some technical issues, but for next time, we're enlisting the professionals.
It did go off though. I mean,
It
go,
did
yes.
happen, and we had a really good crowd, a really good mix of people from families, older people, younger people. We had teenagers there. I'm so excited. That's high praise. We had teenagers there. But yes, so for Wonka, it should be A-okay.
How did you project the movie?
I tried to do it myself. And there's a reason why companies charge a lot of money to do so, and I found that out the hard way, but
You had a inflatable screen.
yep, we
That
had
was
an
really nice,
inflatable
yep.
screen, we had projector, tripod, we had the movie,
We had a sound system.
sound system, yep. Luckily Jeff's friend had a better projector, so thank you to Mike and his magic white Tesla who pulled in and saved the day. But it actually ended up being a lot of fun.
Kids had fun.
Kids
You
had
could see
fun,
it.
and it ended up being a really great venue for the outdoor movie night because those who wanted to sit and watch the movie could. And there was a kickball game going on at one point during the movie, but it didn't bother anybody. It was great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And the next item on the recreation and programming is also Summerfest.
Summerfest, yes, it is fast approaching. Oh my goodness. Well, I think the big news is Chief Glenn's Summer Safety Spectacular Saturday morning is going to be celebrity filled. We have Scoopy, we have Bucky, we have Maynard the Mallard, and we have Sparky the Fire Dog, I believe his name is. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The parade's coming together. Still time to sign up. If anybody's out there and wants to be in it, let me know. But yeah, that we've got a lot signed up for the softball tournament. So it should be good. And we found out today, I believe, that the car show's coming back.
Good.
So that's really exciting. So it will be hopefully reminiscent of Summerfest pre-COVID. So we're really excited.
Excellent. Any comments from the park board? Hearing none. Move on to the third item of, I see, the event sponsorship.
Sure. So doing these events, they come with a price tag. And one of my primary goals is to keep these events free to attend so that everybody can come. So in order to do that, I do need some sponsorships. So one of our neighboring communities had this really great all-encompassing guide for their sponsorships. So I borrowed from them and created my own. And so you'll find in your packet the one that I had put together. And I think next year we might expand it a little bit to include the Memorial Bench program. Possibly we might zhuzh up our Christmas decorations, but for now we've got event sponsorship information for the movie nights, for Sounds of Summer, and for J.C. Park. There are still sponsorships available for J.C. Park. J.C. Community Park, excuse me.
Any questions, comments from the park board? None? Okay.
Perfect.
Have you had any responses thus far?
I've had a few. Yeah, I've had a few. Some of the usual suspects, but yeah, I've had a few.
Okay. Excellent. That's what we look for.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I think that completes all of the things in the Recreation and Programming Coordination Report, so thank you for all of that. Moving on to item 6, unfinished business. Continue our discussion. So 6A was the Oregon Soccer Club rates for the 2024 season. So we had talked about that last week, and soccer participated, and we're looking for what, looking at what our fees are and understanding that overall. I don't know what in particular we talk about. Did you want to come forward, Eric, or you got ideas? We got some discussion points. Did you have any new items that you want to bring to, or just want to pay attention and listen to what?
Yeah, no, I have to give my name, don't I?
Yes, if you give your name and
Yes,
address
it's
once again.
Eric Anderson, 567 Cherrywood Drive. No, we were asked to return essentially because there was really no decision made. There was a lot of good discussion. I think there was also some, I don't want to speak for the board, but I felt like there was some concern about whether other organizations might have similar concerns or requests, and that a month or so would give people a chance to think about things. But yeah, absolutely. I don't have any new information, but I'm happy to answer any other questions or.
I think we got a chance to talk about, so if you got ideas, Lynn, you look like.
I
you
have
some
new
thoughts.
information.
New information.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, I've been calling around. I've been calling our neighbors to see what other municipalities do on field reservations for inclement weather. Maybe I'm not telling you anything new, but here's what I learned. Fitchburg and Sun Prairie both do a reimbursement program. So what happens is at the end of the season, whatever reservation didn't get to be filled because of inclement weather gets added to the credit for their next year. So essentially, they get it reimbursed, but it doesn't go back directly to the organization. It stays with the municipality, but to be used for the next year. Mount Horeb does a $5 per player flat fee. Then they don't have to manage what was rained out, what was utilized. She just said in my call that it's just easier for them to manage. McFarland doesn't do field reservations. They basically do it through their school district. The municipality doesn't do it at all. And I have messages out to Wanakee and Verona. So if anyone's listening, call me back. But it seemed to me through my conversations that this is a discussion that lots of municipalities have had. We're not the first nor the last probably to encounter this. And they all said the same thing, which is that, you know, it's a partnership between an organization, multiple organizations that utilize quite a bit of village or municipal services, and we want to keep that partnership strong. And so, utilizing these programs, specifically that reimbursement program, kind of allows them to come back to the table the next year, utilizing, you know, the fees that they have already provided. So I don't have a strong opinion. I just felt like maybe it was information that would be helpful for the park board to know. I didn't run into any municipalities that didn't do something for inclement weather. As far as fields go, park shelters is an entirely different discussion, obviously, but for fields, there was a policy in place.
Okay. All right, other thoughts? Andy?
Hey, so I'm just gonna reiterate some of the stuff that I said last month. Eric, thanks for coming again. We know that, you know, by essentially over reserving the fields, it allows in the flexibility. So if some of the fields aren't ready to be used or in good condition, you have the ability to move elsewhere. You know, we're both aware that you don't have to reserve any of these spaces if you didn't want to. You could just go take your chances and show up. You know, but the small fee for the reservation, you know, it essentially saves the space, you know, for you. You know, again, I mean, it goes back to what our reservation system is right now, where it's just trying to talk to Leanne, and without a better system than that, we're kind of stuck with what we have. We had talked at one point about having a cap, you know, for the year for the usage. I would not be in favor of that, but I would be more open to something like Lynn just said, with, you know, a refund as a credit for inclement weather, or even getting closer to usage. But I'm still on the fence about that, about going reservations versus usage, because, I mean, trying to figure out how to say it. It's trying to say it politely. It's if you reserve it, I mean, like Jeff had stated in the last meeting too, I mean, you're reserving it because you don't want other people to use it. And without that reservation, I mean, you're taking your chances on that. You could reserve all the fields, you know, for the entire summer, and then come back and say, well, we only used, you know, it for a third of the time, you know, and try to pay that. But one thing I think that does set this apart from baseball, softball, lacrosse, rugby is those facilities that they have, they're kind of set with where they need to be played, and there's been more care put into those fields. What soccer is utilizing is flat space in all of our other parks that probably isn't going to be used much of the time, aside from kids running around there as well.
So I guess just in response to, and not in response to all of your comments, but to one particular, when I was driving in here, there were people playing softball on that field right there. It's totally fine. Like, we actually don't have it reserved right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had been playing there a week ago and we hadn't, when we brought this up, we didn't reserve that so that people couldn't go throw softball around, you know what I mean? We reserve it so that we have the flexibility to be able to play a game there if we need it.
Right.
You know, we still do, you know, nothing's changed in the last month. We do we're fine paying for usage.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reality that needs to be done. We get it. We have no problems with that. The issue comes with the, you know, if we book a game and we don't have a field reserved, we run the risk of, you know, opposing teams driving from Mount Horeb or Wanakee or wherever to coming there. We run the risk of referees coming and getting paid to not referee a game. So we've got large, you know, okay, on a one-game basis, it's not a large thing. But on when you're talking about hundreds of games, then you're talking about large risk that we're taking if we don't have a field reserved. I do appreciate Lynn looking into inclement weather. We had not really done that other than Fitchburg, who we've dealt with a little bit. It is interesting that other organizations do it. I'm trying what I was trying to point out last meeting was we have so many teams spread out through so many places. We need to have that flexibility. If we don't, we come back, we get pigeonholed into places, right? And, I think then it's more difficult for us to back off and say, it's okay that we're not going to play here today. Simply put, our budget cannot sustain that total year after year.
Mhm.
I mean, can we pay that bill? Yes. Can we pay that bill every year? No. So whatever it would need to be, we would need to have something moving forward. Like I said, usage, we are 100% fine with usage. We are fine. I mean, I did offer, I can email Leanne every day and tell her what we're not using and using. I can do it, but I just don't know that Leanne wants that many emails from me. So, yeah, I don't have a lot to argue with what you said, except for the fact that like we don't reserve fields to keep anybody from using anything.
Mhm.
We do it because we need to know that if we put a game there, that the other team can show up, the referees can show up, and we'll have a game.
Right. Yeah. It's to
If
have
we're
op-
not,
it's to have
if
options.
we're not, go ahead. Whoever throwing a frisbee, flying a kite, whatever. We don't. Like I said, we don't sit people on our reservations and make sure nobody else is touching it. And beyond that, I've never even heard. I've been on the board, 15 years. I've never even heard of like a conflict, like where we showed up and people were there and there was a fight or anything. Like I've never even heard of that. So, yeah, we over reserve to give our coaches and teams flexibility to reschedule in a community where the vast majority of the fields get very wet very easily. It's actually been nice the last 2 days, but before that I went 13 straight days where me and Randy, who was here last time, we walked wet fields every single day to see if we can play this one, we can't play that one, that kind of stuff.
So how many did you switch around, or like how did that?
Well, we do a lot of
Yeah.
switching, and like Lynn probably knows this because she sees emails and stuff as a club parent. How many do we switch around?
I guess how valuable
Yeah.
was having the reservation
Oh.
for all of?
It's huge, especially in the spring, because there's a lot of sports in the spring that use the same kind of space. So there's ultimate frisbee from the high school. There's the lacrosse clubs, the boys and the girls. There's rugby, so they all kind of use roughly the same kind of space. Also in the fall, like softball diamonds, baseball diamonds, we can use those outfields because while there is still some play, it's not as much as in the spring. So our field availability in the spring is down, and then just think about the weather in the spring, right? It's coming out of snow, you never know what you're gonna get. We get, what did we have, 6 straight days where it rained, 7 straight days where it rained. And on a lot of the fields, when it rains, it's wet there for 3 days. So, I mean, we get emails from parents and they're like, it's been sunny for 3 days. Why is this field still closed? And I'm like, well, we can go walk it. So if it's kind of a combination of a number of things, and should be 100% fair, like the field at JC Community Park is not an issue. The field at Highlands is not an issue. They are in great shape. They are in tremendous shape. Highlands and Otherwoods as good as it's ever been.
Looking good this year.
Yeah, no,
They're
it's
also
great.
designed
And
for that use.
yeah, and and both of those fields take water, right? There's
It
nothing.
can rain all day on those.
Nothing wrong with them at all. They don't get ripped up. It's every other field though.
A lot more money put into that. than
Oh,
some-
absolutely, absolutely. I know.
Well, and we'll have 3 of those type of fields. We have 2 down, we'll have
Yep,
3.
another one coming in there.
Yep, once phase 2 is finished. So
Yep.
that'll help out. That'll help out a lot.
Yep,
Andy,
no,
did you have more
definitely.
thoughts?
I'm gonna let someone else jump in before I finish.
I just have a quick question coming back to the inclement weather policy. So is that looked at to where like they're only reserving one field for one game, and if it's unplayable, they'll get reimbursed for that? Or is it more looking for the over reservation? Like if they can't play 3 of the 4 fields they had for a game, then they'd be reimbursed for all 3, but still played. So then they'd get like probably a larger majority of their so I
Yes.
guess I'm just trying to I'm wondering what the inclement policy or weather policy would be.
Yeah, so the way that they described this to me was whether Mother Nature prevented a game or practice to happen, or the field condition prevented action from happening. So the only time when in this situation soccer would pay for their reservation and not get reimbursed is like if on a Saturday every single field they reserved was beautiful and it was sunny. Then they would be paying for the reservation of all of the fields they have. But let's say that on a beautiful Saturday they only play a couple of fields because the other fields aren't even playable, then they would be reimbursed for that, even if it's sunny.
So how do they figure that part? Does the coach email and say we can only use 2 of our 4?
Yeah. So basically, just what you're already doing, where when you close a field, they let the municipality know, and any reservations of that field then get reimbursed. Because similar to what we've talked about before, some of these municipalities lean on their clubs to tell them the state of their park, like the field, because they don't have staff to go out and check every day. And so if the club deems that it is not playable, then they take it off of their
Okay, so that
Build.
would address the financial, but I mean, we're still talking about the over reservation, but I think we concluded last time that's not necessarily a huge issue right now.
Right.
Because
I was
soccer's
gonna,
the only one that
I was gonna
was-
say, if it is, then my next question would be, if that's the route that you'd wanna go, then my next question would be, okay, then what's the cancellation policy? Is that listed out somewhere? Because I'm happy, again, like if we have a beautiful sunny Saturday and we don't need all of our field space, I'm happy to cancel that
Your
field space.
reservation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that the stuff that's not needed.
Yeah.
So it would kind of be a 2-part.
yeah.
How
sort
soon
of
are
thing.
you able to tell?
Well, anybody's welcome to come with me, but on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm out at about 6, and we try to have the decisions by 7.
So essentially it'd be same day cancellation.
Well,
And I
that's,
didn't
that's the way it is
ask-
right now.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know, again, park shelters are very, like they always say, like it has to be 30 days within whatever for that fee to be waived. So I guess I don't know for fields. What was interesting is that very few, only one, I think Sun Prairie had this on their website. So they're not like open to the public. These policies are sort of created, I think, in partnerships.
And I guess that seems like the risk, there wouldn't necessarily be a cancellation policy, if you're choosing the same day, right? So you're either paying for it or not with the weather in this scenario. But anyway.
I also believe the idea of each member of the club, like, paying a certain fee towards maintaining the fields would be another good idea, because it takes away some of the hassle of management to, like, manage all the cancellations.
I mean, that would be true if you had a segregated space for them to use, but if they're using spaces elsewhere in the community, you would still want to make sure you had the ability to use it. You know,
So-
that's where I would shy away from that. I mean, I do agree with your point. It would be a lot easier just to collect a fee, but
It'd be a lot
I don't
easier for
think that
everybody.
it would work in this system unless soccer had their own soccer park.
Yeah,
type of thing.
so we did just finish our budget for the next season, and we did allocate funds on a prorated percentage basis.
Mhm.
But as you just said, we have no intention of locking ourselves into these kids can only play at this place.
Right.
Because we did not want, we wanted the flexibility to be able to move. So that is the way we addressed it. It's a prorated situation.
From what I've seen, if the soccer club is just going to reserve all the hours like they have now, I feel like it's very similar to like a like a certain fee per person. It doesn't seem to be as big of a problem of like who's there when, but rather like getting the money from what I've seen.
Lynn?
Yeah, so this begs the question that I wanted to ask. I specifically wanted to ask Judy and Mark because I feel like you guys were here when this was sort of created, and maybe there's others. I apologize, but was the original intent of this for the financial aspect or for the reduction of over reservation? Like, what was the point of creating the field? Or maybe Jeff, you can speak to that. Like,
Judy, do
what
you
are
have
we
any
trying to
comments?
get to? Are we trying to get financially?
Yeah, because then we could hire Leanne and then somebody else to take care of the parks. And then this money would go for that.
Yeah. Which, if that's the basis, then I agree that I feel like a flat fee is just, and we know that those funds come in, there's less management on your side. We're not tying up the money that we're getting in hours you're spending trying to check the weather every other day. If the intent was the over reservation, then that's a different
It's both, I think, honestly.
Okay, so it's two separate issues.
I think it is both because, and when we used to have the old system, it was through the school district and they struggled with the same concern as well. We have a very active, successful soccer program. And that's great. But as lacrosse comes along or ultimate or rugby or whatever, and as those start to grow, hopefully, we have to be very careful about kind of what precedent we're setting because then it becomes who can get in there first at the beginning of the year or whatever to reserve the fields. Whereas, and I understand there's that challenge of like, you don't know exactly your schedule, but every year, but I think you can build a schedule that says, okay, we're always going to have games on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And, the only time we can have games are say 4 o'clock after, so then we reserve it from 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock. That seems to make more sense. And it seems to be a little more fair approach. But, when it's just like we're going to reserve it from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, I think, yes, well, right now we don't have a lot of clubs that, like you said, are not coming out and reserving these, but we hopefully will see that grow over time. And so as we set policy, if there's one thing I've learned in working in this job is you have to be very careful about what you say you're going to do and where you're going from there because people get used to it and then it makes it very difficult to change later. And that's why it's kind of, I think it's got to be a nice balance between saying, okay, look at your schedules, reserve what you think you're going to have, inclement weather, fine, that kind of stuff. But I think the idea was trying to prevent, because it's always been a challenge. So that end of preventing that, there's the other end is as we, need funding, obviously, to support Leanne, maybe even additional people that are in Parks and Rec over. You're going to be our Leslie Nope for the next couple of years here, right? As you grow your department. That's important revenue. That field usage comes in as revenue, and I think so. It is a little bit of both.
So I'd say going back to the original start of this, one of which is that we were the only community that didn't have any kind of fees in particulars, and so therefore, what do we do? And part of this was that some people from outside out of the village would actually just come and use the spots, and so let's put something in place, and we compared a lot of communities to get an idea of what the fees were in particular. What was really taking place was, and trying to set any reservation system was, everybody was looking for an exclusion. Every Boy Scout, every Girl Scout, every sports organization was looking for an exclusion, so it got to be a real mess. So what do? Well, let's make them reasonably priced, still be competitive within the community to be able to have some attractiveness. Some of that revenue, my inclination was that this park board had no funds to really work with. And so the idea being is that our parks are very nice. We have more parks than a lot of other communities. Let's try to improve upon them. And if we wait till some funding that can come around, we're not going to be able to do much with them. You know, to get $400 or $500 every year for this park board, it's like, okay, a couple of trees. Jeff says we're putting them in here. We got them. Like, oh, that's about it. So I think the initiative was that we had to understand what was going to take place within the sports organizations because they use them. There shouldn't be any deterrent from using any spaces within our park financially.
Right.
That shouldn't be the case at all. Today's world, the youth today don't do anything unless it's organized. So unfortunately, we do a lot more organized. But, so that was the initiative. I don't see it as a funding source that we're going to offset some debt somewhere else. Something to help the parks, get them aware of it, get some recognition and how to improve upon them. There is a differences when we end up investing something in Netherwood or JC Community Park is different than it is a park that's just a nice place, nice area to utilize. And it's awesome to be cared for because these sports organizations, soccer mostly, have cared for a lot of it. It certainly have offset many of the long burdens for the staff itself because there are people out there lining taking care of it. So I think that that also has helped out in a lot of cases. If we keep putting this into the village to occur, then it's going to raise the costs. And so that was kind of led into it. So it was trying to balance those dollars and to bring some of that in, but also help to improve within the parks themselves.
And our maintaining these newer parks, I can tell you just because I see the bills.
Yeah.
You know, fertilizer, repairs to sprinklers, additional mowing. You know, it's definitely, yeah. You know, it costs us more money, definitely.
And if I could just add a couple of things. So number one, and Andy, I think you mentioned it, on the vast majority of these fields, if we didn't reserve them, so if we go into next year and we don't, whatever, pick whatever one you want, no one else is going to come in and put in reservations for any of these places. To address, Jeff's absolutely right. What this used to be was a battle between the youth groups to try to get space. That has gone away. Now there are meetings where we sit down and we talk it through and we say, you go here, we'll go there, you go there, we're good. Even within the seasons, there are emails between the groups. Hey, we need this on this day. Is that okay? What time does practice start there? Can we do that? What can we do to help? I traded with softball and girls lacrosse. We worked stuff through. We helped them hook up with field painters so they could get that. So I think that, I mean, so to me, from that revenue side, I've said it. We're not going to pay $25,000 a year. We just can't. So whatever you take away, whatever we don't reserve, then that's not coming in from anywhere. So to me, that's maybe not even part of the discussion, but that's for you guys to decide. The other part would be, I do hope that people understand the increased cost to us to do this. We have to have porta potties at all of these locations because we cannot run practices or games without restrooms. Those porta potties stay there 24 hours a day. So if somebody goes to Champion at noon, there's a porta potty there that they can use right by the playground. That's us. We're paying it. We also pay to mow. We pay mowers, which, you know, the village staff does, on the village fields, the village staff does mowing. We send mowers out to make sure that they're at a playing level surface that we like, other than JCP and Highlands. So by us being spread out through so much, so if you rewind, when we were kind of all based at JC Park, we were in one location. So our mowers and our field painters walked out, did all those fields. That was kind of the majority of everything we had. Now we're at Bergamot and Alpine and Windcrest and Stone Ridge and Highlands and High Meadow and the schools and everywhere. So we have to have trailers for our field painters. We have to have trailers for our mowers. We have to, we pay them by the hour. That's a lot of travel time around. So this has been like getting spread out. I keep hitting that. Getting spread out throughout the town has increased our costs hugely. And again, that's not to minimize the fact that we really appreciate the fact that we have, facilities and fields. So we certainly do. Like I said, we are more than willing to pay for usage. Again, it would be very challenging to not have that flexibility. I've been trying to wrap my head around how we would do it without that flexibility. I mean, it would just be more kind of like blocked in things. I mean, I will tell you, and Lynn, like if you talk to other communities, what was it, 2 weeks ago? It rained on a Saturday here. And we walked the fields out, we were out, and the fields were in really good shape. And even though it was raining, we left them open because it wasn't gonna be severe and it wasn't supposed to be heavy. It was just rain. And I got a lot of feedback from parents because they said, we never play in the rain. If it rains in Oregon, you close the fields all the time. Why did you leave them open? And we said, well, they're in good shape. It's not heavy rain. So it's very rare for us to be able to play in rain. Other communities, they play through this all the time. Like this is not even a thing. Like unless there's severe weather, they play. We very rarely, other than McFarland, we very rarely get told, oh, the field's underwater, we can't play. So it's, the way that we approach it is very different. And I think it's just from the standpoint of what the vast majority of the fields in this community are like. So I do feel like that's a unique, different situation. So anyway, thank you.
Andy?
I'm gonna jump back in. Eric, thanks for bringing up the fact that you guys do mowing and that you have the portable toilets out there. You know, you and I have talked privately about this as well. And there is other things you're doing. I mean, so what I would be comfortable with, and we can discuss this here a little farther, is, I mean, I'd be comfortable with soccer going to usage instead of a reservation fee for the balance of 2024. You know, based on the conditions of all those flat playing surfaces that aren't JC Community Park and Highlands and Netherwood, because you're making the best with what you can. Like you said, the quality of those fields are not ideal for, competitive soccer all the time based on the weather. I wouldn't worry about a cancellation policy or inclement weather unless it would come to, a total washout and not be able to use Highlands and Netherwood or JC Community Park, because those would be the ones I would worry about. And honestly, like I said before, without a more robust reservation system, I mean, I think we're making more work for ourselves than we need to right now. Once I would be in favor of seeing how this season goes, revisit this at the end of the season and get some feedback. I understand the hesitation about, if we do something special for soccer, then baseball or softball or lacrosse or rugby might be next trying to do it. But, if we have to have that conversation, then we have that conversation. We welcome them to come up here.
I hear that as a motion. Is that, would you like to move on that?
Sure.
You may not declare.
Yeah.
So
I would make a motion that soccer for the balance of 2024, soccer would go to a usage versus a reservation fee.
Do we have a second on that?
I have a.
You can discuss if we have a second or not. So we
I
got a
can
motion on the table? Do we have a
I'll second it.
You got a second? Okay, and now we can have discussion. Nico, go ahead.
Why would we charge on reservation or non-reservation on actual usage instead of just doing like the fee depending on the amount of players? Because it seems a lot simpler.
Because that way, I think if we use it on usage, I mean, essentially, baseball, softball, lacrosse, rugby, they're reserving, but their usage is real close to their reservation thing. With what Eric has said, the reason that they over-reserve is so they have the flexibility based on the conditions of what the fields are. I think it would just be more fair to do it based off of usage, because in that way we know what's how much you're using. And then that way you kind of know how many games you're going to be planning throughout the year, whether, you know, they can be played this day or that day. You can move things around. You know, if you want to collect the fee per, however you want to collect the money, that's up to you. But I would not want the village to say, oh, you have 200 players, we want X dollars per player.
It gives us a chance to start gathering that too.
Yeah.
Because it is a new event for us and it's a
Mhm.
new opportunity, so we can
So-
start getting a idea of what the use and when you do need a cancellation. So that would allow us to get a better understanding.
So they'd have no reservations then?
No, you would still have the reservation because, I mean, obviously if you want to make sure you can have the game, if you're having a team from out of town come and a referee or an official there, you don't want someone else to come and snipe the field from you and say sorry, and then that obviously that looks bad. You know, it's just bad for everybody. So they would still have reservations. It would still go through this system, but I don't think we'd have to get so uptight about fields not being able to be played on. We wouldn't have to have the communication hourly between Leanne and Eric to figure
Nothing
it out.
personal.
You know, but if it comes, I mean, the ones you're really going to be worried about are the fields that you generally have games at. You know, and like Eric said, a lot of times these fields aren't being used for anything else.
And it could be
And-
perceived as fair because then you're also using what the other sports organizations are using. They're using the fields and they're using it and paid for that reservation as well.
And just to be clear, if somebody does want, again, just to be really clear, if somebody else is looking for a field and we've got it reserved, we are more than happy to, if we can move a game to help somebody, if we can move a time, we can say, oh, you know, we'll be done by 2. You can use it after that. We are more than happy. We will always try to accommodate anybody. That's been our, approach the whole time and will continue to be.
Any other discussion with the motion on the table?
Yeah, so how does that communication process work then? Like, how will we
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
what
we're
you
gonna,
used and what you didn't?
we're gonna have to
and-
figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can, I don't know if you can go in the system in the morning and take off what you're not using or whatever.
Well, we
however-
can-
But there has to be some.
We could
If-
figure
Oh, there's not-
something
I
out,
thought there
I'm
was-
sure.
there's no
It's
clicking?
Leanne's Google.
I was gonna
Calendar.
say, if there's,
It's me.
That-
But-
that's
No,
fine.
So then you
I
can
have
take it
some
off
ideas.
whenever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if
I-
any
Yeah.
organization could, it would be.
yeah, I have
You
some,
guys,
I do have some ideas on that.
Mhm.
That fit into our current systems anyway. But whatever works.
Some of the pushback I think we might get is the other organizations are paying up front for their reservations, essentially their assumed usage. So I would be hesitant to let this go to the end of the year. You know, if you broke it up into season, you know, your spring season, your summer season, your fall season, obviously it would help. I think it would be in good faith for the soccer club to do that to the village with the change in the policy, you know, here.
Okay, so separate them out into
I would
kinda
separate
three
them into
separate
seasons
things.
as opposed to the end of the year, okay, here's,
Okay.
you know, December 31st, here's your check for all of it. I mean, I think that would
Okay.
be a reasonable compromise as well.
Should that be an amendment to it?
Yeah, could I add
Incorporate
that
so we
too?
have in that, so we'll need a second on that amendment.
And then we'll just need to
Second that.
determine what dates
Yeah,
are spring, summer.
Right.
Okay.
we'll let, I
To
mean, that's
staff and-
past
And
us.
then I don't know if this makes sense either. But does it make sense to have like this expires December 31st, 2024? So it's really clear that it's not going to be like this isn't the new precedent and it will be discussed.
I think, I mean, that's why I wanted to see the balance of 24. you know,
So it'd be a 1 year.
I would like to see it like that.
Okay.
Because I mean, because that way we know, at least at that point, we'd have the history of the year. We know what's good. If all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this worked, you know, then we know where to go. I mean, I don't want to have a 2-hour discussion at the start of next year again.
Well, that was,
Yeah.
well, that was my question. I assume then if we're gonna, if then in 2025, we can come back and
Yeah.
and
No,
discuss.
I think we'll have to have the 2-hour
Okay.
discussion again in
Yeah,
25
probably.
because otherwise we have the precedent that Jeff was concerned about and
Right.
Okay,
But at least we'll have
some data.
something to go back and look at.
Any further discussion? Judy?
Do we have other sports teams here that maybe wanna talk?
Certainly. Welcome if any are present that would like to offer any thoughts. Yes, please.
Mike, come forward.
State your name and your address, please.
My address? For real?
We wanna know you
where
can
you
give us
live.
pizza pits if
Okay.
yeah.
Michael White, 940 Brent Hill Drive. So I'm here for baseball because I was just doing the kind of the usage kind of thing because for years and years and years there wasn't such a thing as, you know, okay, we're gonna pay $2 or $3, whatever. But in Fitchburg, we've been doing it for years, so it's $3 basically for each game. So that's just a flat fee, here we go. So like, and you know, Fitchburg, we had a rain out, so they, you know, we write a check for them at the beginning. These are the hours, here we go. So they reimbursed us $80 for last week's yada, yada, yada. But the thing is in turn of us paying the $3, we never have to touch the fields. The you know, the baseball, you know, everything is set up for us. The lines are done, everything's done. The bases are set for each age group. The whole shoot match is done. So this year with the new fields and everything else, we've paid people to move everything for every game. Kaiser all the way through. So we're paying, you know, the kids, you know, basically the high schoolers to set all these up for every single game. So me being the treasurer, I'm getting all these bills and I'm like, okay. So not only are we paying for this, then we're paying for the setup and then we're paying for, yeah, and that was my question of, okay, if I'm paying these guys to set up the fields and then paying you to set up a budget for next year, what is this gonna look like? Because Leanne, I don't see, is it gonna be running out there changing from 8 years old to 13-year-old you and, you know, these are the dimensions, this is where this is supposed to go, you know, I mean, I've been doing this all my life and I literally have to look, you know, cause I mean, all the different pegs are, you know, then we set them up and we already put all the different pegs in the new fields and have done all of that stuff. So, and also, you know, for the last 4 years, we have given $20,000 to the sport complex for 4 years. So we have ponied up $80,000 for these new fields. So I'm just trying to figure out for budgetary needs to literally go because we in Oregon, and I grew up in Oregon, I went to high school in Oregon. I mean, I've been here since I was 6 years old. I mean, we didn't really have to pay for sports at all the way through. I mean, it was like $12, you know. Now we're still about 50% of what Verona, Monarchy, all these other, I mean, if you want to play travel baseball, it's $700 to go to Verona. Right here, it's $375. So I'm just trying to make sure where we're going to be at because we have close to 600 kids that are in baseball in Oregon. You go to Stoughton, they have like 40. So I'm just trying to make sure that we stay competitive of what we want. Do we want the kids to go to other places based on the facilities, or do we want to go based on, we want everybody to come back because we're going to be cheaper, but if we have to pay, you know, this, that, and everything else and set everything up, I guess my scenario is, one, is that included in the $2 fee? Because in Fitchburg, it is.
No, it's not, yeah, the setup.
You know what I mean? Right, well, that's where I wanna make sure where we're all sitting in,
That's why
because
we're
all
at
this is
2
new.
versus 5
you know.
and 10. I think we're, is more, wasn't it more in the $5 and $10 an hour range? But yeah, we don't have that equipment or staff right now.
Well, right, and that's where I'm, you know,
So that's
that's
why
where
we-
I'm
yeah,
trying to
we-
figure out where we're gonna be at, so
Yeah.
if we're doing all the setup, that's where I was like, okay, so you want us to pay for the fields, as well as set up the fields, as well as take care of the fields,
Yes.
you know, and it's like, okay. I mean, I guess that's, if that's where we're at, then I guess that's what I need to know, so I can take back to the board to say, okay, now we have to increase costs by 25 to 40%, so right out the gate. And that's gonna, you know, negate of, now we're gonna go from 575 kids to 300 to 200 to 100. So then, you know, all the money that we just spent on the sport complex, nobody can use it because now we have no teams. Now we're Stoughton with 25 players that are playing 2 teams on 1 field. Then you guys just literally blew $4 million on nothing. So that's where I'm trying to go either way with this. I appreciate you guys, I mean, when I played in Oregon, we played on dirt. I mean, we have cathedrals now, you know, I mean, the high school diamond, I mean, even the soccer field is just incredible. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that where we're at with all of this, because the sticker shock of everything, I just need to know so we can inform this to do this, and just saying, I want to make this grow and turn into a, you know, thriving sport complex, but if it's gonna kill everybody, then we could see our numbers go down. Because, I mean, if we're shelling out, you know, $700 for 2 months of baseball, and we're already competing with soccer and everything else, you know, because I have a 10-year-old son. Well, by the time he's 12, he's gonna have to pick a sport. Because you can't, when I played way back in the day, I could play all the sports because it was $25 here, $20 here, $30 here. Now, by the time you're 12, you got to streamline into something to where parents are shelling out between $300 and $500 a month for 12 months, because you know you don't get to be in, you know, club soccer unless you're playing X, Y, and Z. You don't get to be where you're at, you know. So you have to streamline what you're doing. So we're competing with other sports. But I'm not trying to make this into a 2-hour conversation. I guess my biggest thing is I wanted to know, are we responsible to set up everything and pay for the pegs and pay for the everything else? And I guess Jeff kind of answered that question. So that's why I guess
I just want to elaborate a little bit on that. So, we did, well, we've paid for all the bases and pegs and plugs and everything, because we ordered, after that last meeting, I ordered about another $900 worth of base plugs that our staff installed at all the new distances and everything to accommodate all the fields. So to the best of my knowledge, I don't think baseball had to buy any of those.
Oh, well, I have the bills for the plugs, so that's why I'm asking.
For the little rubber plugs?
Correct.
Yeah, don't be buying those.
Well, no,
We got
that's
those
fine.
coming
I
out
mean,
of
I'm
our
just saying,
ears, yeah.
I got the
I
bill,
mean,
so I paid the bill, because
Yeah,
I'm
I don't,
assuming we
I
were
don't know
putting
why they were
plugs in.
doing that,
So,
yeah. Call us, I mean, we've got a box of them. I mean,
Oh, okay, that's
what,
fine.
you know, and so I bought plugs, the plugs, the anchors, pitching rubbers, movable pitching rubbers, all of that after our end bases that can accommodate softballs. We have all that, and that was delivered and has been installed, as far as I know. Yeah, everything I think is set up and good to go out there. You're exactly correct. I mean, we don't have the staff and equipment yet to be dragging those fields all the time. That's kind of that's actually one of the things I was gonna add to the park CIP, is we're gonna start looking at some equipment that we might add for JC Park, where we can have equipment out there, for that type of stuff. The $2 rate, we all agreed that this is a starting rate, and we do not have the staff and everything out there to be dragging these fields. You know, we don't have a Ron Davinska, right?
Oh, right,
You
no,
know,
and
that's,
that's where
and that's where, you know, since we're not paying for someone like that out there, we didn't feel it was fair to be charging, obviously, the much higher rates. And I know when we had talked with baseball and other sports before, just saying, and we've talked with soccer about this on mowing, is like, we'll get out there and mow, we'll be mowing on a regular basis, but there are areas that might need mowing additionally, and soccer has asked for permission and done that in the past. So there's always kind of that cooperative effort. And so that's where I know that the board ended up on the fees. You know, I pushed back a little bit on, you know, that the clubs have donated great sums of money. Don't get me wrong, you know, for the park and everything like that, but it's still a very small percentage of the cost to construct everything.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was, I can't remember, baseball was 60,000, or was it 80,000? Okay, so $80,000, you know, but the complex itself, I mean, by the time we get done with this, I think we'll be in the neighborhood of $7 to $8 million. You know, so at the end of the day,
Right.
it's like, I don't want people to feel like they've given to something and then they still have to continue to pay. People have to realize that our residents are gonna be paying this for the next 20 years, you know, out of our taxes and everything like that, out of our debt service.
I totally get
A
it.
huge investment. I honestly, but I wholeheartedly support it, because we're seeing the impact in the village, you know, from all that. So, I push back a little bit on that just because I know all the numbers and I know, who's given what and who's recognized and all that type of stuff. I understand the stresses of that, of increased costs.
Right,
We're
and
seeing it
that's-
everywhere.
Right.
But I just don't want people to feel like we gave this money and we now have to pay. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's just the matter of the cost of doing what we have out there.
Right, because I'm just going with,
Yeah.
because for 25 years, there was no such thing.
And no fields out there. And
Correct,
No,
it was,
and
okay, we're doing this, this is like, and I understand, because,
Right.
I
Because
remember when there
you're
was
right.
1,200 people in this town.
Expectations are higher. I mean, and that's what we found when we were going through all the planning for J.C. Park, is people's expectation on what type of facility is needed for youth sports has gone through the roof, because we've built these great places. We have Redden Soccer Club. We've got a wonderful over in Verona. What is the name of the baseball complex over there across from Farm and Fleet and everything?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Huh?
I think is it Stanford?
Maybe I can't, but it's a beautiful facility, and and that's kind of people's expectations, and it's great that we can offer that. It's just at a very, very high cost.
Oh, I
Yeah.
really, I appreciate everything. I just needed to know the lay of the land.
Yeah.
So, and that's, and that's where I was just making sure that,
Yep.
okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, and this is how it works, and I'm very appreciative of what you guys do, because like I said, way back in the day, I played on dirt. But I guess that was more of my reasoning of coming here and just trying to make sure, and then when you guys brought that up, I was like, okay, this is what I want to make sure, this is what I want to listen to, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, Lynn?
Mark, I wonder if what we're hearing from both here is that your budgets need to have time to absorb whatever we choose to do. I think we really want to see what the rest of 2024 looks like by adjusting to usage for soccer. But I think maybe we should have a dedicated meeting or conversation simply about this topic, maybe not within a park board meeting, that would bring everyone together just to talk about what this looks like, and maybe we do it earlier than the end of the year with what we have to go on,
For
so
the
that
summer
you guys
season.
can adjust your budgets to what you need for next year.
So
or what
something
you
in
need
its
to
fall
invest.
time frame
Absolutely.
after things roll
Yeah.
up.
Right,
Good
so like
idea.
an October, November timeframe.
I was thinking October.
Yeah.
We could do like a, yeah,
Because softball really wants to know what's going on.
Right.
I'm kind of
Mhm.
here just,
yeah.
Yeah,
because a lot of people are asking me questions.
100%.
So I'm like, okay.
yeah, I think for
There's Mike,
2025,
he'll know.
we
That sounds
should
great. Sounds
set
great.
that up.
Well, thank you for
October
contributing.
14th.
Appreciate.
Yeah, no, and thank you
was
guys
very
for letting me
specific.
speak. I just, I'm just really happy to, because you guys really have done a great job. I'm just trying to get like I said, the lay of the land and inform the masses, this is the way it's gonna have to be. So, I'll be the bad guy.
Awesome. We do have a motion on the table. And a
Is there
second.
anybody else that, are you with,
Nobody else?
oh, nobody? Okay, all right. No, just wanted to make sure.
Miss Dinner. Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote on it. All in favor, state by saying
I
aye.
have one more
Aye.
discussion.
Oh,
you
sorry.
have
Wait,
more
wait, wait.
discussion?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Jump in,
Andy,
Jamie.
Sorry, now, you're like, finally stop talking.
No, this is good.
So the inclement weather policy, like if we're not putting it on this one, then I think we should, I don't know if it's a separate one, because there should be fair game for all the other like organizations to get their money back too, for usage, even if it doesn't really apply to soccer.
Yeah, I did get Fitchburg to send me their policy, so maybe we could sit down and look at it and see if that's something we want to look at for next year.
Because at this point, do they still have to pay for it if it's a rain out, the other organizations?
We pay for it up front
Yeah,
at the beginning of the year, and then they just credit us back for every.
okay,
like
so
I'll
we
get an
already do
email
that.
saying
Mhm.
$80 because today it rained. So then, and everything's automatic.
Okay, so Oregon doesn't do that.
Do
yet,
we do
though.
that?
Not yet.
Not at this time.
Okay,
So it's
Yeah,
something
but we
to
could
look
do
at.
that.
Pittsburgh
It's
has a
something we
a
could
super
do,
nice
yeah,
setup,
absolutely.
so-
Or I think we kind of arranged it, like for baseball, like they got a break on the concession stand rental, or we
Right,
like,
and that's-
figured it out, or, yeah.
And that's what I would just wanna make sure for this year, this is kind of a tester year of like, okay, this is this, this is this. And then in October, November, we can all come together and say, this worked, this didn't work. Cause we're all willing to pay to, you know, for the,
Something.
you know, these awesome facilities that we have. But we just gotta make it reasonable for the parents not to jump everything 30% in 1 year and be like,
Right.
okay, property taxes went up 20%, now your kid's playing ball, now it's 30% more, and now it's like, okay, what are we doing?
Fair point.
Okay. Any other further discussion?
So.
We
can
can call
you-
for a vote.
Yeah, well, can you repeat the motion on the floor, please?
The motion. Peggy, can you help us out with that? Yeah, confusing me quite a bit.
Okay, so I've got, I've got usage, let's see, soccer usage versus a reservation fee. Motion by Herman and second by McDaniel, and then I've got the addition of organizations are paid upfront, so we can't wait until the end of the year to pay
Yep.
separate into seasons to pay. And then this wasn't, I don't think this was included in the motion, but there was also discussion that it would expire at the end of the year. So,
Yeah, that should be in the motion, right?
Yes.
I would amend that.
Yearly.
yes.
Because you said
That-
the word
that is included.
third amendment,
Sure.
Correct.
I'll go back and listen to it, but that's
Okay.
That's
gist
the
of it.
basis of what I wanted to
Does that make
convey.
sense, Judy?
So we're looking at usage.
Correct.
And then, and it ends in 2024.
Correct.
And the pay quarterly or seasonally.
Correct. Does that all make sense? Can I call for a vote?
And now is that just for soccer or is this for?
This is soccer, this discussion
is
is
soccer.
soccer only.
Okay.
Call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Chair's not voting, unanimous vote. Thank you all for that discussion. Thank you guys for your,
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate the time.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not voting.
So it
There's
was,
no dissension?
I'm not either. I'm
You
abstaining.
understand? Okay.
You're abstaining? Okay.
so we have
You get the middle four.
402.
Who's
Yeah.
abstaining?
I-
Just raise your hand if you're abstaining.
I'm not gonna vote because we had a majority. Or I can
You're
vote.
abstaining and you're abstaining? The two and,
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So 402.
We're making this
Yep.
hard.
Yes, definitely.
So
Okay?
thank you very much for discussion tonight and last month, and I
Yeah,
will
Be in touch.
be in
We'll see
touch
you
with
soon.
Leanne, and we'll put together some kind of, process and plan for that.
Absolutely.
And obviously, whether it's late 2024 or 2025, happy to come on back and have some more conversations. But no, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
So, item 6B, had to encourage you to go and visit a park. Take a look at a park and see what kind of thoughts you might have had in particular. Kind of things that I was considering was I looked at Thompson Park. Thompson Park is across from Wisco, and it's behind American Family as well as the Froyo Strip Mall overall. Thompson Park is kind of in a busier area because of the fact that it's really close to Wolfen as well as Janesville Street, and so therefore it's a little involved, but it's a pretty awesome park. One of the aspects of it is that it's got some very mature trees, so you got some nice shade there. There is several swings, older swings overall, but there's regular swings, but also a youth swing, more of a traditional that you can actually put a child into it. There is sand as well available, and so a pretty large amount of sand. It does back up. There's a little bit culvert on both sides of it, so unfortunately that culvert has a tendency of grabbing some older things that to reside, so that does kind of back up around there. This is the park that we had to take quite a few trees down, and so there was a lot of them removed, but fortunately trees were planted once again, so they are in place. One of the questions that had come up at one point that this could potentially be another small soccer field. There's a little bit of pitch to it, a little bit of a difference, so the water would run off a little bit differently. But one of the advantages is there isn't people around, as we do find in High Meadows, so when you're parking and you have a lot of people around, you're parking in the front street of many homes, and some of that's been an issue in the past, whereas we do have other parking spots along that stretch overall. So just see that as a potential. There are certainly things that continue to could get enhanced. Certainly, if we look at a play set and advancing that, and even reservation opportunities there as well is a great place for people to gather as well. So that's kind of my take on it.
There was 60 kids out there from the daycare.
Yeah,
with their-
Karate back there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they use it a
So-
lot.
Oh, do they?
They
Oh,
use-
I right
yeah.
on back.
Yeah, they use it for their summer program a lot, and it's great. And we've actually had complaints about that, and I said, "Are you actually complaining about kids in the park?" And it's not I mean, we don't say you can't use a park. I mean, and everything, but yeah, they've used it now for quite a few years, and
That's
I
convenient.
mean, we're talking 100.
Yeah, there was
100 plus
over
There's a lot of
60
kids.
today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, they all had green shirts on. So, it's all, so
Yeah.
nobody wanders off with the green shirt on.
Yeah.
So did anybody else get a chance to review a park and have any comments?
Nico
I
had
went
a
to several parks. I'd like more time to prepare before presenting, but I do have one park that I know very well. I live next to Anderson Park, and so I know the opinions from my neighbors. From what I've heard, a lot of us are unhappy about the cutting of all the trees in there.
Oh, I could speak on that.
Open the
It's
door.
probably not
There's
not my
a
place.
management problem up there, Nico.
Yeah.
You need to go.
I
have
can
coffee with them.
talk to you after the meeting
Yeah.
if you would like.
Yeah, and that's also town park.
It
Or
is.
county,
That's a county park.
yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit different. Other?
Yeah, I just noticed that at Gasner, I mean, I know you said that we were gonna redo the basketball courts
Yes.
there in Bethel Greenacre, and I thought there was a
And
third-
Merrill.
Merrill, yeah,
Merrill
Hill.
Hill.
The south backboard at Gasner.
We're gonna take care of the
Awesome.
backboards too. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that since we're gonna spend the money on that, I mean, that's something where, I mean, it could come out of our funds.
Right, yeah.
as
it'll-
well too, which is
the
why I'd-
backboards will probably come out of park funds.
Yeah.
The asphalt's coming out of our roadway pavement,
Mhm.
upgrade funds and everything like that. But yeah, I looked at Mary Hill today too, and I'm like, definitely, we need to upgrade the backstops.
Right, yeah, so I mean, I guess that was just,
Acres is probably too.
Huh?
Bethel Acres is also. I think
Yes,
the backboards
yes,
are fine.
absolutely.
yeah, they're,
Yep.
they're serviceable, but it'd be nice if we're gonna spend the money to make the rest of the court look nice. so-
Surprised how many people use those.
Oh,
especially
it- yeah.
Gasner.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
people use
easy,
Gasner, yeah.
and we're actually working with an Eagle Scout to do the line painting. That might be an Eagle Scout
Hmm. Yeah, that's
project
great.
Oh, beautiful.
that would be with our supervision. So that's done nicely, but yeah.
Awesome. Other ones?
Continuing on the park that we were just talking about, one thing that I noticed when I went to go see it is that a lot of the paint was starting to wear off.
Paint on which park?
Gasner?
Yeah, I guess.
On the play equipment?
Yeah, on the play equipment
Yeah.
specifically.
Okay.
I
All
went
right.
to Meadowview.
Meadowview.
Yeah, that's, I grandkids now, so I'm learning to sit there and look at everything. But yeah, I mean, sand would be a wonderful thing too.
Which one's Meadowview again?
It's the one next to High.
The one right next to Bergamot?
Bergamot, it's on the
Yeah.
low side.
Yeah.
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 And the small, because Bergamot has the larger,
Structure.
slides and stuff,
Mhm.
where this one has just the right size for my kids. So it's just like, but the sandbox, they love that sandbox. And
Yeah.
I went garage selling and dumped a whole bunch of those,
The
you know,
toys.
trucks in there.
There's lots of
And-
toys in there.
Yeah, and now, I think I
Yeah.
started something at my house, but, 'cause now they wanna go over and see if they're there, you know. But it's, yeah, if you can do sand there too, and I would even pitch in for it, some of it, yeah. I don't know what it would cost.
Put that on the
It
record.
costs $12,000.
Any other park discussions?
I did Thompson and Bethel Acres too. I think Bethel Acres is the one close to RCI, right?
Off of Burr Oak.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there was a field trip there at the end of the year. So I chaperoned that, and the kids had lunch and played, and a lot of green space. I didn't
Mhm.
have any.
There's a lot of
I
space
didn't
out
look at
there.
anything. Yeah. Lay had a lot of fun on that spinny.
Yeah, those aren't allowed anymore.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it wasn't crooked or anything. Like it was relatively.
Right.
It looks better than some I've seen.
Yeah, we don't want the kids to get hurt. Those are the things we played on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we all survived.
Right.
Well, not really. I had a couple.
And then Thompson too. I went there because we had to kill some time, and I think it was the karate. There was a group of kids, but they weren't in green shirts, so just another
Mhm.
large group. And noticed the
that's awesome.
trees, and I liked the creek. We went down there and like
Couple of
looked
trees
first.
are not looking good though.
Or-
You mean some of the new ones are? Yes, yeah, we'll take those out. We had a pretty good survivor rate out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe about 6 years ago, we actually went in and cleaned out all that area. It really opened it up. If you can remember it before, it used to be really overgrown. And so there was a time where we had some extra staff and time, and we cleaned that whole area out, cleaned out all the understory, and then planted grass. And that's a whole area along the creek and as well as out towards the Wisco side of
Correct.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did a lot of walking in that area.
yeah,
so
it's
it
real
was
pretty
nice.
back there. It's
Yeah,
really
it's really
nice,
pretty.
yeah.
And the only thing that I thought of when I was there, and then I ran into Phil at the art fair, and we were discussing it, but to have a brochure of the parks, and I think we've talked about that before as a park board, but I don't know if they're at every park with the little plastic, brochure at you see at the state parks, but
Like a
at
little
least.
kiosk kind of thing?
Yeah,
Mhm.
at least something, because Phil had a whole bunch of brochures for Oregon, and then to have a park one might be
Yeah,
nice.
you know what I use is I use the chamber map.
Correct, yeah, that's a nice map.
I use that for because I know most of the parks, but the ones like High Meadows, and I'm like, yeah.
Can we
I-
just fold that up and
Right.
put a cover on it?
There you go.
Call it a brochure?
I know where High Meadows is.
Open rec plan.
Pretty sure that's what I
Well,
use.
then Phil can print those off and
find
put
it,
them
yep.
at his table.
I was just gonna say, so you probably saw him at the Village Outreach Program, and we should definitely have a brochure sitting at the table to help.
Well, the art
Parks.
fair, if that's what that
Yep,
was.
that's what it
Yeah.
was.
And I got
Very
some nice
smart,
Oregon
Jamie.
swag.
Very smart.
Just excited about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. I challenge you to keep looking and share next month. So that would be awesome. Item 7, new business. So that was potential discussion items. A was review of the 25-34 capital improvement. Really focus on the parks portion of this in the SIP.
Right. So, Elise and I were working on this. Leanne, were you in that meeting?
I was, but
That's-
I was just there.
Okay. Well,
Mostly you and
sorry,
Elise.
I didn't want to give credit.
I took up
just-
space.
No, okay. So Elise, Leanne, and I went through this the other day. And as we did just come off the updated park plan, which is really great. And in that identified kind of specific goals at each of the parks. And it's great because we just have not had this in our capital improvement plan for so long. We may have like a placeholder that says miscellaneous park improvements. But that doesn't really put something like Scott Street Tot Lot on any kind of schedule or more on a radar. And so we're seeing this, and as we know, as we go through the CIP and borrowing and everything like that, it's much better if it's in the CIP. We have it. We can always move it. We can always delete it, but it is one of those things that's nice to have, so it does give us an idea on how we can be freshening up some of these neighborhood parks that are getting aged, and it doesn't take long for a park all of a sudden to be 30 years old. I mean, and that's kind of about where the equipment really starts to look sad, 25 to 30 years old. So what you'll see in this, basically, these are different projects that we have in here. Are there any questions as you've gone through them? The immediate things that we have are Gary Dish Playground, Park Playground. That'll be designed this year as we have in our current CIP, and then about $200,000 that'll go towards equipment and probably a concrete border around that. We're still debating on what exactly that'll look like, but and then we have our general park expenditures. That's usually for kind of small improvements, wood chips, other things that we need to be installing in the parks. But And then this bike and pedestrian, study, that's, something that Elise has been working on, and that'll be coming in 2025. But that gives you an idea of at least what we have planned for 2025, but hopefully what you see in here are, lots of things that we hope to be adding in the future. Highlands and Etherwood Park irrigation well. We currently are off of Village Water, which is an irrigation only meter, but it's also very expensive on a monthly basis when we're paying our own rates. So, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have a private well or an irrigation well for J.C. Park, to help offset a lot of those costs. You know, other types of things where we see phase 3 for the lighting of these parks, and that lighting would be all 4 ball fields, all 4 baseball type fields, softball fields, both of the playing fields / the lacrosse, soccer, whatever those square playing fields, and then the pickleball courts. And it really is going to depend on. I mean, we'll look for direction from the park board and village board on where you want to see this. I think going through with phase 2 is highly admirable, and I'm really glad we did that because we can finish off the park and be using it. Just the real question is how much do we need the lights there? And going forward, I think that'll just something you'll have to discuss and try to ascertain of how important that will be. And then just other stuff that honestly is through the through the plan. Let's see, we had a conservation park. Where am I gonna?
It's up higher. Go up about 6 rows, 7 rows.
Yeah.
Up a little more.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Conservation park planning. This is something that we did have actually in 24, and I think last year the village board made the direction to move it out to 26.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment, that I'm a little disappointed that keeps getting pushed out, because we have this emphasis on sports, we have this emphasis on playgrounds, but that's not the only thing that parks are,
Right.
And I'll be honest, I'm not a sports person. My kids don't play sports. We don't use those things, to watch J.C. Community Park balloon from $4.5 million to what it's going to be $9 million when it's all done. It's
hopefully not that. Well,
with the lights and everything else. I mean, I'd love to see $100,000 for planning to try and tie 200 acres together that people can use right inside our village, because there's people that that are never going to step foot at any of these other parks, that they would utilize this. So I'd love to find a way to fund that and pull that even farther forward instead of pushing it out. Because if we don't do it, it's going to get pushed out again. It's something easy to push out.
Right. And I think it's a good point. And that's up to park board and village board on that.
I just asked if that was a motion.
Yeah, well,
I can only.
So we estimate that the planning's 60,000. I don't know if maybe that's low. Do you feel that that's low for the planning?
I mean, it depends on what scope of planning you want. If you say, we just want to do a park, I mean, I think a comprehensive study needs to be done with what is actually there, what's viable to do. I think you need to do a wetland study through all of Lerner Park to see what's actually there. I mean,
it's all wetland.
Right. Yeah, but what's good, what's bad? I mean, before you can say, I want to put a boardwalk through here, you need to do a study of, can we put a boardwalk through here?
Correct.
So I think 60,000 is low for that, but I have not done that study. But to me it seems like anything else, like this bike and pedestrian study that got pushed forward, or even some of these other, the transportation
that's
one.
grant driven.
No, right. So if you can find outside funding to offset the overall cost, then the village is more apt to push this stuff forward.
Are you volunteering to find outside funding?
Jeff, I was 15 minutes late to this meting. I don't have time to find that study.
I mean, that's the thing.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, I mean, I'm all supportive of funding. I just don't know, bike and pedestrian, that's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of entities out there sponsoring that for alternate routes and alternate uses. I wholeheartedly support, you know, we want to see this plan be put into place, or this conservation park planning, because when we look at this, and we have it down here for Lerner, Keller, Dega, DiMaggio,
Florida
former
Avenue.
Florida Avenue, all of that ties together, and I do truly believe we have a gem there, almost like we have in Anderson Park is kind of a really neat opportunity we've seen in Anderson Park. We have a really neat opportunity to tie this conservation area into Keller Alpine, which is more of an intermediate use, and then into the soccer fields to the west at West Park.
Right. I mean, I guess my real reservation with seeing this thing get pushed out again and again is when the library got sited out there over on the west side properties. The village board was just about ready to designate the rest of it, to save it, to not have any other development there. But then they said, well, wait, this is going to come up in the capital improvement plan.
Yep.
It's going to come up in the open park and rec plan. Let's see what the masses decide. And then we're just sitting on it.
Mhm.
You know, I'd like to see movement on it, because I believe people don't want to see more development in that space.
Okay, so you're asking, increasing the amount for the study. That's increasing what was shown as the
I mean,
60.
60,000 would be fine. I mean, it depends. I mean, you have 60,000 there, and then 2 years later, you have 100,000.
That's the design.
That's the design.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that's construction. And
Right.
these are numbers that, I mean, how do we know? I mean,
You don't.
You don't. And that's
Right.
where we have to just kind of put a
Yeah.
big number out there and say, okay,
I mean, the 60 is probably fine then. I mean, for the study. I mean, again, I don't know how comprehensive. I mean, I would love to see it go really deep, because before you can do a study to plan how anything is, you need to actually understand what's there.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of like we
but-
found with the downtown master
Right.
plan. I think we were thinking 40 and now it's up to
Yep.
80.
Right.
You know, so yeah, but if you think it would be more, we can always increase that in the CIP. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, but by increasing it, then we're going to push it out farther because we don't have the money.
not necessarily, not necessarily. I mean, it's up to what your recommendation as a village board, or as a park board, and your recommendation to the village board. You know, so we just push things around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to
That's the
recommend
story.
anything for the rest of the people. I mean, I guess that's what I feel strongly for, and that's why I'm still on
Well, if
the
we
park
get a
board.
DNR grant or something like
Right.
that, that's something we gotta look into and see what we can do.
I volunteer for that. I'll look into, so I'm already having some conversations with DNR about a tree canopy study potentially here in the next year or so. So in that conversation, I'll see if I can pull some information. I also feel like this is a little bit of sustainability. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a sustainability committee focus on it a little bit. I think in the meantime, I think Andy's point, which is, and for your purposes, Jeff, I think he's recommending as the park board that we move it up. But I think simultaneously, I'll see what I can do to see if we can get some, like you said, some grant funding or just some money that might be sitting out there that could hurry that along a little bit or lend a hand.
And for what it's worth, I would support that too, because that was kind of one of my motivating factors.
So yeah, so make a motion
Yeah.
and if that's a motion recommendation to the, you know, to the village board, then yeah, I have no problem with that. Just tell us what you want to move it up to.
2025, right?
Yeah.
And
So you wanna move
100,000.
the 60 or whatever that would be up to 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, conversely, move up the
Move
design
everything
to
else up a year.
27 and construction of 28.
Yeah.
So that'd be to 2025.
I mean, is there a reason we would need to have an off year in between the study and the design?
Yeah. Because chances are, when you do the 2026, they just start between.
Takes time.
It takes time.
Sure.
And you're asking for, obviously, you want public input
Mhm.
and all that type of stuff. We could do
Okay.
it, yeah, but
I mean, if we could move it up, the whole thing up a year, that would make me happy. It would make a lot of the people that I talk to happy about it as well, because that's the circle that I run in.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll be getting that Hermson, property someday too.
Yeah, someday.
Yep.
You know, the thing is, it's not in the village. To me, I would treat the Hermston property like I treat Anderson Park.
It will
It
be
is
in
in
the
the
village.
village.
We'll annex it
Right.
after we take it over.
But until we get the bike and pedestrian study and all the trail things, we
Yeah.
have trails that get there and then they stop. And,
Yeah.
you know, but it's not, based on what I read about the Herms property, I don't even know if we can put a trail through that.
We can put trails, we can't pave them, I don't
Right,
think.
so you know, it's a different type of property
Yeah.
than what we have currently inside the village. I don't wanna discredit the Hermston property because I think that's gonna be a great addition when it comes. But I don't want the hope of that coming to take away from what we currently have and what we should protect.
Well, and the reason he did that is because he doesn't want soccer fields and all
Mhm.
that other stuff,
Right.
or baseball fields in there either.
Right.
Good.
Jeff, if we move that to 2028, I'm looking down the row of 2028,
There's
and
a lot
that's
of
a
money there.
very expensive year. Do you want us to give you guidance of what we would move elsewhere?
Absolutely. I mean, this is capital improvement plan, obviously, you know, the most critical thing we always focus on is really is 25, 26.
Oh,
because-
okay.
Because that's really what's coming up. And, you know, these things do float around.
Yeah.
You know, based off of, sometimes, I mean, what if all of a sudden everyone comes in and says,
We need
Um,
lights.
we need lights, or we want, Kaiser Fireman's Park, you know, that needs to be done right away. And you get 30 people in here saying we have to do it, you know, we move it up at your direction.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we do try to balance it out a little bit, but I always say in the first 3 to 5 years, that's pretty good idea of
Okay.
what you want. Beyond that, it's kind of almost placeholder, but it does,
Got it.
we try to spread it out a little bit so we're not, you know, putting too much in one year. But yeah, we don't have much in,
So you're putting a motion forward for this? Did you have a dollar value?
No, I mean,
You're gonna keep
leave
at
it,
the
leave it
60,
as
just
is.
move it forward?
Leave it as is, move it up a year.
Both, the
All three
26
parts of it.
All three parts.
okay.
Okay. We have a second for that?
I'll second.
Very good. Any discussion? Further discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Okay. One of the other things you'll notice here is kind of a desire to try to get an off-street path, this Park Street Connector Trail. That's basically, think of it as the Culver's Corner to Perry Parkway / Park Street. You know, where that, we have a path then that goes all the way to the high school and everything. So that was something that we've kind of added recently. The trail maintenance, just so you know, all the, you know, we've been putting this money away for making trail maintenance repairs. And as part of that, we're gonna be able to do all of Keller Alpine trails this year. Will be ground and then new asphalt. So, pretty excited about that, cause those get a ton of use. Any other questions on capital improvement plan?
I have one more.
Yeah,
Just in regards to trails and stuff. What would it take to get a trail along Jefferson to connect the new trail by that, what is it, Lennar building out there? And then, you know, in front of Mulligan's, in front of
yeah,
the church. I mean, because you have a trail that goes there, then it
Yep.
stops.
yep,
The same with the trail along Wolf Street or MM, you know,
Yep.
behind those new houses. I mean, it's great that we're putting these paths in, but if they don't go anywhere,
yeah,
you know, and I know Elisa said it before, you know, okay, well, we have some and that's what the study's for. And then, okay, well, we'll go on a trail and then we're going to bounce on the road. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. I'd
Yeah.
I'd much rather, you know, have a path to go on because.
absolutely. So a lot of those trails that you see there are developer funded.
Mhm.
Because that's, you know, just what's going in at the time. When you don't see trails that aren't there, that's probably our bad from, who knows, 10, 20, 15 years ago when those were platted and not put in. Or not, when they were platted and we didn't make that as a requirement. So you do end up with these trail sections. We're actually in the middle of, we'll be in the middle of preliminary design for Jefferson reconstruction.
Okay.
Okay. That does involve either sidewalk or off-street trails, off-street paths. We're thinking it might be a hybrid, where one side would have all sidewalk, the other side might have off-street path, but we really don't know that yet. We're kind of be careful about, you know, where we're putting it in. But we might collect money from the developers that are doing the Thatcher property over near Mulligan's for path that we would put towards, you know, towards the future path. But yeah, we've not been able to, I mean, it's kind of like putting in a path along Wolf Street. You know, we know we
Right.
need one out there, but we know whatever we put in there will is probably gonna get torn out in about 2 or 3 years. And so that's why we're pushing back a little bit on that.
Sure. I mean, because I know the solution, or not the solution, but the workaround was, you know, if you're on the path out west by the Hermson property, coming there, okay, well then hop up on one of the streets, go up again, Oregon Parks Trail or
Yep.
whatever, and then jump back down. Like, people are gonna jump on the road if they're gonna do anything.
Probably,
you
but
know,
those are
so
less traveled roads. Like if.
No, maybe they're gonna jump on Jefferson because
I
the
hope
trail
not.
runs right there.
Yeah, I hope not. No,
Well, I
they'll-
mean, you can hope, but I mean, the same with putting the paved trail through Anderson was the hope to try and get some of the bike traffic off there. I mean, the bikes are still taking
Sure.
Union, but at least you give pedestrians a place
Sure.
to go.
So we've come to a conclusion on like that stuff that's out along, the villas and the flats out
Mhm.
there. That connects through and you can then take that trail up past the detention pond to get on Oregon Parks.
Right.
Oregon Parks is a much less used roadway
Yes.
and sidewalk that gets you all the way to the library and then onto the path. That's actually not a terrible connection. It's not a perfect straight through like we'd like along Jefferson Street,
Mhm.
but yeah. It
I
would-
guess we'll wait and see what the study says and then see what the recommendations are for that.
Well, I mean, the study will say obviously
Yeah, that
we
we
want
need that, right.
that we'll need it at, you know, sometime in in the design and construction, when we do that section, which is, let's see, we've got 25, 26, 27, 28 is when that's scheduled to be reconstructed out here. 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the SIP plan? Now, Jeff, thank you very much for putting that in front of us again, reviewing that once again.
Yep.
Taking a
You're
look
welcome.
at that. Our next upcoming meeting is July 9th, and then the meeting in August is Wednesday, August 7th. So that one's scheduled for 5 p.m. as well as the other one on July 9th. Any objections, any conflicts with those at this time?
So August, we're going the first Wednesday instead of the second Wednesday, or
Yeah.
second week?
But then
Okay.
the Thursday you can come to or the Tuesday you can come to the concerts, right?
No, so that's why the schedule's a little wonky. So Tuesday the 6th is National Night Out,
Oh, okay.
and then the 13th is an election.
So it's the 7th, you said?
Yeah, so the 7th.
August 7th?
Wednesday, August 7th, yeah.
Okay, so that is National Night Out, okay.
Do we have a
Makes
concert on
sense.
Tuesday the 9th?
Tuesday, nope, the 16th.
That's good. Which is our ice cream social.
Yep, sure
Uh-huh.
is.
So, item C, 7C, any other items for future meetings and assignments? I'll just continue on, I'm offering that you take a look at other parks, but no particular assignments on that. Does any of you have any assignments or future items? Hearing none. Allow the opportunity for your park board to have any comments. Judy, do you have any comments?
Not today.
Okay.
Thank you. That's unbelievable.
None for you, Nick?
No.
Okay, Lynn?
I think I just want to take a minute and thank Leanne and Jeff and Elise. You guys are doing a lot of work right now. This is a busy time of the year, and
Very busy, thank you.
we're very appreciative of what you're doing.
Yep.
Awesome. Andy?
I just apologize for being late.
I understand that. Fair enough. Jamie?
Nothing.
Nothing for me either. Let's call for an adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Judy makes that, second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Nico. All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. Thank you all.
Thank you.
What time is it?